Time is up. It is the end of the road for those who have been scheming behind the scenes, those who have wronged you, and those who have tried to extinguish your light for their own gain. You, as a chosen one, are now beginning to be rewarded for your patience and perseverance. Remember, justice will prevail. No one's deeds will remain in the dark. Divine justice is now in effect. The price for every misstep they have taken will quickly be laid before them. Every move they thought was secret will come to light one by one. The old order that grew as you remained silent is now being shaken by your rise. Their end has come, and the results are now being realized without delay. This is your moment of victory. Truth, which was silent until yesterday, now speaks the loudest. Feel your strength and determination. Write in the comments now. Don't just be a spectator, be part of the story. With your support, we will become a giant family of 5,000 people. Subscribe now, turn on notifications, and join us. Because no one can stop you now. The chains have fallen, the curtain has come down, and the stage is yours. Just like a seed lying hidden beneath the earth, pressed down by the weight of soil and darkness, there comes a moment when the ground itself can't hold back new life any longer. It's the quiet, steady pressure of what's been buried that finally cracks the shell and lets the green shoot rise into the light. You might have spent seasons in the shadows, overlooked, misunderstood, maybe even ignored by those who claimed to care. But now, it's harvest time. The earth is splitting open. All the things that once pressed against you, the little slights, the quiet betrayals, the words spoken with a smile but loaded with something else, are being brought up into the daylight where everybody can see the truth for what it is. You see, life has a way of shaking loose everything that's not firmly rooted in truth. For years, you held your tongue, took the high road, kept peace in the room even when it cost you your comfort. But nothing is wasted in the hands of the Almighty. Every tear you cried behind closed doors, every lonely night you questioned your worth, every false friend you forgave, those moments were seeds, planted deep. And now, just like spring, your breakthrough can't be hidden. The very ground beneath their feet is trembling, not because you raised your voice in anger, but because you stood in quiet dignity and trusted a higher justice to do what you couldn't. People who built castles out of lies never expect the rain to come. But when the storm finally rolls in, those houses don't stand a chance. The gentle rain of truth is steady, soft, and impossible to stop. It seeps into every crack, every hidden corner, and reveals what's been hiding there all along. The folks who thought they could keep you small, who benefited from your silence, who traded on your kindness, who wore masks just to fit their narrative, are now watching those masks slip away. And the real face of things, the motives that lurked in the shadows, come shining out for all to see. Maybe you never got the apology you deserved. Maybe you were left carrying the weight of someone else's choices, feeling like you were the one who got it wrong. But I'm here to tell you, God saw it all. The universe has a way of keeping perfect records, even when people pretend nothing ever happened. Nothing slipped by the divine balance sheet. Every time you gave someone a second chance, every time you let something slide for the sake of peace, it was written down. And now, those quiet records are being settled. The balance is coming due, and you don't even have to lift a finger. It's like a theater where the stagehands have finally flipped on the work lights, and all the props and painted scenery start to look flimsy in the harsh glare. The show is over, and the audience, maybe even people you thought would never see the truth, are suddenly wide awake. There's no script left for those who pretended to care but only showed up when there was something in it for them. The curtain falls, and what's left standing is real, unshakable character. For so long, you might have wondered why you had to be the one to take the hits, to hold it all together when it seemed like no one noticed your sacrifice. But in the quiet, you were growing. Like a tree adding rings in secret, you were gaining wisdom, patience, and a strength that nobody could take away. When the wind picks up, it's the deep-rooted trees that stand firm. You are that tree. You didn't crumble when others lost their footing. You didn't retaliate when folks twisted the story. You trusted the process, and now, the truth is your reward. There's something powerful about being able to walk through fire and not come out smelling like smoke. That's what happens when you let grace do its work. All those hidden motives, the secrets kept behind closed doors, the little games people played, God's wind is blowing through and clearing the air. What was endured in silence is now being proclaimed from the rooftops, and not because you went around telling your side, but because you lived it out with quiet integrity. Sometimes, the ones who seem the weakest end up with the greatest victory. You know, a diamond spends a long time in the dark before it shines. Gold has to pass through fire before it's worth anything. You went through your dark night, but you didn't get stuck there. You kept moving, you kept believing, you kept showing up in love even when you weren't loved back the same way. That's the mark of a chosen soul, one who knows the real treasure isn't found in applause or recognition, but in the peace that comes from being right with your own spirit. Now, as the fog clears, the old stories lose their grip. People who built their comfort on your silence are seeing the tide turn. You aren't carrying their burdens anymore, and it's making room in your life for blessings you couldn't even imagine. The old cycles are breaking. New doors are opening. It's your season to step out from behind the curtain, not with anger, but with a quiet confidence that comes from knowing you survived the storm and grew stronger because of it. Don't be surprised when people start coming to you, asking how you made it through. They'll want to know your secret. Tell them the truth. It wasn't that you never got hurt, but that you refused to let bitterness take root. You kept your eyes on something higher. You let grace do what anger never could. And now, everything that once weighed you down is turning into a testimony, proof that even the hardest seasons can grow the sweetest fruit. So keep your head up. The harvest is here. What you planted in pain, you're about to reap in joy. The scales are tipping, the ground is shifting, and what was once endured in silence is becoming your song of victory. This is your season to stand tall, to let your roots go deeper, and to watch as every old facade finally gives way to the bright, unstoppable light of truth. Imagine for a moment you're like clay on the potter's wheel. It might look messy while you're spinning around, pressed and reshaped by hands you can't even see. Sometimes it feels like everything familiar is being pushed out of place. But that spinning, that pressure, is never random. It's not chaos, it's care. The potter doesn't waste a single turn. Every bit of pressure, every squeeze, is shaping you for a greater purpose, molding you into a vessel that can hold more than you ever thought possible. All those times when life felt out of control, when you faced setbacks that came out of nowhere, when people walked away without warning, when doors slammed shut just as you were about to walk through, they were never just random storms. They were tailored just for you. Some folks think adversity is just bad luck or a sign you're off course. But what if it's actually the opposite? What if the very trouble that tried to shake you was the proof that you're meant for more? You see, the ordinary never gets tested like this. A precious metal isn't found lying on top of the ground. It's buried deep, waiting for someone to dig, to search, to separate the gold from the dirt. When you were going through those hard seasons, it wasn't punishment, it was discovery. God was searching out every hidden treasure in you, clearing away the dust so the gold could shine through. Maybe you looked around and saw people living easy, never facing what you faced, and you wondered why your path was so steep. But here's the truth, nobody ever climbs a mountain by accident. You were chosen for higher places, and higher ground takes more effort to reach. Sometimes the climb felt lonely. Sometimes the air was thin. But every step, every struggle, was building something in you that nobody can take away. There were moments when people around you believed you were falling apart, losing your grip. They thought your life was unraveling. But what they couldn't see was that you were being remade from the inside out. The old was coming off so the new could take shape. It's like watching a house under renovation. The dust, the noise, the walls coming down. It looks like destruction to the untrained eye, but to the builder, it's the first step to something better. While others might have written you off or misunderstood the process, a higher wisdom was guiding every detail. You were never being broken down. You were being broken open. There's a difference. The things that weren't meant for your future, old mindsets, outgrown relationships, habits that held you back, were being cleared out, making room for something bigger, something truer to who you really are. It's easy to feel forgotten when the journey gets rough, when you're walking through valleys nobody else can see. But remember, seeds only break open in the dark. That shell had to crack for new life to spring forth. The pressure wasn't the end, it was the beginning. The more it squeezed, the closer you came to your next season. What looked like loss was really preparation. What felt like being stripped down was actually being fitted for glory. When you were tempted to believe you'd missed your chance or that your story was over, that was just the old chapter ending. The author was still writing, still weaving every thread together for a purpose greater than you could imagine. Each hardship was an invitation to trust a little deeper, to let go a little more, to find your footing in places where others might have quit. And as the dust settled, you began to see that none of it was wasted. All those tears, all those prayers whispered when nobody else was listening, all the moments you chose faith over fear, they became the foundation for a strength you never knew you had. You stood up a little taller. You spoke with more authority. You discovered a peace that doesn't make sense to the world, but anchors you like nothing else ever could. So the next time you look back at the hardest parts of your journey, don't see them as scars, see them as marks of destiny. They are proof that you were chosen for something higher, something sacred. The fire didn't destroy you, it refined you. The potter's wheel didn't break you, it shaped you. And the world needs what only you can bring because you made it through. The sun is rising on a brand new chapter, and you are stepping into it stronger, wiser, and more radiant than ever before. Picture your heart like a garden at the edge of a great city. You put up fences, plant good seeds, tend to the flowers, and watch for weeds. Now, imagine someone slipping in when the gate was left unlatched, not to enjoy the beauty or to help you grow, but to take careful notes, counting every rose, memorizing every path, searching for soft ground to plant trouble. They move quiet, almost friendly, but all the while they're making a map for their own gain. It's a hard thing to admit, but not everyone who walks through your gate is there with honest intentions. Some folks come in with smiles, asking about your dreams and fears, but only so they know where to build their own shelters when storms come. They see your kindness as an open window, your generosity as a key. Bit by bit, they learn how to get what they want from you, turning every gentle word you spoke into a note in their little book. You ever feel like someone's been studying you not to know you better, but to figure out what makes you tick? It's like letting someone into your kitchen and suddenly realizing they're not there to share a meal, they're there to figure out the recipe, so they can sell it as their own. The worst part is, you offered that meal out of love. You didn't expect anyone to twist your ingredients, but that's just what they did. They took the best of you and tried to use it for themselves. But I want you to know, just because somebody studied your soft spots doesn't mean they own your story. The gardener still has the keys to the gate. The one who planted the seeds in your heart never left you defenseless. God sees every little thing, every subtle move, every unspoken motive. Even when you didn't understand why you felt so tired, why you started guarding your heart a little closer, the Lord was showing you how to recognize the difference between a guest and a thief. It's a lonely feeling sometimes, realizing you've been a puzzle on someone else's game board. Maybe you trusted too quickly, loved too deeply, gave when others just wanted to take. But here's the good news, your garden is still yours. They might have drawn up their blueprints and walked your paths, but they didn't plant the roots. They can't steal the sunshine that makes you bloom. What God put in you can't be duplicated by anybody else. There will always be people who treat relationships like a scavenger hunt, searching for clues to control the outcome. They think if they just learn your patterns, they'll win every time. But what they don't realize is real strength isn't in hiding your heart, it's in healing it. It's in letting your roots grow deeper when others try to dig them up. It's in learning to forgive, not because they deserve it, but because you're ready to move forward. Over time, you become wise to the ways of those who wear masks. You start to spot the difference between a compliment and a setup, between a helping hand and a hidden agenda. Your spirit gets sharper, not out of fear, but out of trust in something bigger. You realize that the same God who made your heart tender also gave you discernment to know when to say yes and when to shut the gate. And here's the miracle. Every time someone tried to map out your weaknesses, they underestimated the strength that comes from above. You're not just surviving, you're thriving. Your garden grows back, stronger and brighter. New fences go up, not to keep the world out, but to keep your peace in. You learn that your kindness is not a liability, but a sign of grace. The blueprint they drew up for harm turns to dust, because what God builds can't be undone by the plans of man. So keep tending your garden, chosen one. Keep planting love, keep pulling up weeds, Keep trusting that you're being watched over by a wisdom far greater than any scheme set against you. Your heart is sacred ground, and its beauty will never depend on the approval or manipulation of others. You've come too far to let someone else write your story. The Lord is the master gardener, and what He's growing in you will outlast every map, every plan, every strategy meant to hold you back. Stand firm, keep shining, and let your life be proof that love, real love, cannot be mapped, controlled, or stolen. It simply grows. It's a little like weaving a warm quilt for someone you care about, only to wake up one day and realize they've sewn themselves right into the fabric of your life, so tightly that it feels like you can't pull a single thread loose without the whole thing unraveling. That's how subtle their presence was. At first, you thought you were just being generous, letting someone lean on you, sharing your light. You didn't see how quietly their story became tangled up in yours, how they took shelter under your kindness until you could barely tell where your giving ended and their taking began. The tricky part is, people like this don't walk in with a warning sign. They move gently, speaking in soft tones, mirroring your hopes and hurts so well you start to think you found a real companion. Every time you reached out with compassion, they found a way to draw even closer. You gave without thinking twice because that's just who you are. You're the type who brings an extra plate to the table, who listens longer than you should, who believes the best in folks even when you've got every reason to walk away. But somewhere along the way, you realized this wasn't a two-way street. Your empathy, your patience, your open heart, they became the very tools used to keep you tied down. The warmth you offered became the energy they drew from day in and day out. It's like tending a fire in the dead of winter, only to discover someone else has been sneaking in, taking the heat for themselves, leaving you shivering in your own home. The hardest part is how familiar it all feels. When someone works themselves into your daily routines, your morning coffee, your evening prayers, your quiet moments of joy, it starts to feel like life can't go on without them. They show up when you're celebrating, when you're hurting, when you're just trying to breathe. Their needs become your checklist. Their worries become your burden. And suddenly, you're carrying a weight you never agreed to shoulder. For a long time, you told yourself it was love. Maybe you thought being needed was proof you mattered. But love isn't about losing yourself. Real love lets you breathe, lets you stand on your own, lets you grow. This kind of entanglement? It's something else entirely. It's a slow siphoning of your spirit, a subtle shifting of the balance, until you look up and wonder where your own needs went. People with open hearts often get caught in these webs, not because they're weak, but because they're strong enough to believe in second chances, patient enough to hope for change, brave enough to keep showing up. But here's what I want you to hear today. Your spirit was never meant to be a fuel station for someone else's journey. Your light is too precious to be siphoned off by folks who have no intention of building their own fire. There's a holy kind of courage that rises up in you when you finally see the pattern. It's the courage to say, "This is my life. I can care, I can pray, I can help, but I cannot be your power source forever." When you draw that line, it hurts at first. It might feel like you're tearing away a piece of your own skin. But give it time. The very same compassion that was once used against you will become the foundation for your new freedom. The parts of you that were once drained will begin to refill. Your laughter will come back. Your peace will return. And you'll realize, maybe for the first time, that you're allowed to be whole. See, the world needs people like you, the ones who build sanctuaries, who keep the light on, who make room for the weary. But your heart is not a doormat, and your soul is not a battery for the ungrateful. It's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to say no. It's okay to reclaim your energy and put it into places that nurture you, not just drain you. So as you untangle yourself from old patterns, do it with love. Bless the lessons, but don't lose yourself in the process. You are a masterpiece in progress, handcrafted for more than just survival. There's a new chapter waiting, one where your gifts are cherished, your time respected, your spirit celebrated. You are not here just to be useful to others. You are here to shine, to live, and to love without losing the best parts of yourself. That's the destiny of the chosen. And the best is still ahead. Imagine you're walking through a long hallway of mirrors. In the bright light, you can see yourself clear as day, but someone keeps adjusting the angles, warping the reflections, making you question what's real and what's just a trick of the glass. Some folks come into your life like those trick mirrors. They hold themselves out as the solution to your problems, but all the while, they're the ones quietly pulling the strings behind the curtain, rearranging the scenery, and setting traps with invisible wires. They come dressed as helpers, ready with the bandage for a wound you never had, until they handed you the knife. They're clever, too, smooth talkers with pockets full of quick fixes and sympathy on demand. But what they don't understand is that real healing doesn't come from someone who caused the harm in the first place. You know what I'm talking about. Those folks who bring you flowers after stepping on your garden, who cry tears right after they start the fire, who act shocked at the mess they made in your living room. They want you to believe that they're the hero of your story, when really, they wrote the disaster in small print. You've always carried a soft heart, and in a world that rewards hard edges and fast exits, that's a rare gift. Some people think that makes you easy to fool or quick to break, but here's the truth. There's nothing fragile about a heart that keeps loving even after it's been let down. That's not weakness. That's a special kind of strength, like a lantern that refuses to go out even when the wind picks up and the rain starts to fall. Not everyone can keep shining after a storm, but you do, and that's how you know you're different. The world is full of folks who are quick to put on a mask when the moment calls for it. They can play any part, act any scene, wear any face they think you need. But you, chosen soul, you walk into the room as yourself no matter what. Even when your kindness was used against you, you didn't shut down. Even when love was thrown back in your face, you kept showing up, kept believing that goodness was possible, even if you were the only one who could see it. There's something beautiful about refusing to harden your heart just because life gave you every reason to. Anybody can grow cold. Anybody can build walls. But it takes a rare and courageous spirit to stay open, to let the light in, to hope again after heartbreak. You carried the pain, but you never let it poison your purpose. You were handed burdens, but you turned them into wisdom. That's what sets you apart. Not that you never got hurt, but that you never stopped believing there was more to life than just surviving. And when those tricksters come back around, trying to sell you on a solution for the very trouble they started, you see them now for what they are. You don't need their patchwork promises. You've learned to find your healing in higher places. The world may tell you to toughen up, to get even, to pay back pain with pain. But you know there's a better way. You know that real strength is measured not by how many walls you build, but by how much light you let through the cracks. It takes faith to keep a soft heart in a hard world. It takes courage to trust again, to love again, to give when you've been taken from. And yet, every time you chose love over bitterness, hope over despair, you set yourself apart as someone who isn't ruled by what others do, but by who you are deep down inside. That's what makes your light shine so bright. That's what makes you chosen. So let them play their parts, let them write their scripts. You just keep being real. Keep loving with open hands, not because you expect applause, but because that's who you were made to be. Your light is a rare thing in a world full of broken bulbs. And even when others don't understand, even when the world tries to convince you that tenderness is a weakness, you know in your soul it's a superpower. Because a heart that loves anyway is a heart that can't be defeated. That's your story, and it's only just beginning. Gradually, they rearranged your sense of reality itself, like a slow change of scenery in a play. Subtle gestures, dismissive glances, carefully timed silences, the abrupt ending of conversations, became the new rules of engagement. These cues taught you to question your own instincts, to withdraw rather than assert, to feel guilty for wanting peace in the midst of chaos. They were artists of confusion, blending fact and fiction until your own memories became uncertain territory. Phrases meant to unmoor your certainty were deployed like well-sharpened tools. These were not slips of the tongue, but deliberate acts designed to sever your confidence in your own perception. But beneath the surface, another process was unfolding. Each time your trust was betrayed, an unseen fortification was laid in your spirit. What was meant to weaken you instead toughened your resolve. Every deception became a lesson in discernment. Every intrusion a call to defend what is sacred. Isolation was their masterpiece. By drawing invisible lines between you and those who once formed your support, they sought to leave you stranded. Familiar faces suddenly turned distant, warm hands went cold, and trusted allies faded away right when your world tilted most. It was a campaign designed to leave you doubting the reliability of your own tribe. The blows never came all at once, but with a rhythm as precise as the ticking of a clock. As soon as you patched one wound, another would open. Healing was interrupted by new betrayals. Hope suffocated under a fresh blanket of suspicion. Each victory was met with another test, each step forward shadowed by engineered confusion. This was a contest not of bodies but of spirits, a deliberate contest of endurance and transformation. Sensing your shift, those who once controlled the environment felt the ground move beneath them. The more you awakened to your inner resources, the more their influence eroded. Their scrutiny was relentless, tracking not just your words but your very presence, watching for the smallest change in demeanor, the first hint of independence. Each attempt to build something new was met with resistance, each step towards self-ownership sabotaged in subtle ways. Your compassion became a shield for their story. Wounds inflicted upon you were reframed as misunderstandings, your pain spun into tales of overreaction. Attacks were cloaked in the language of care, while your attempts to speak truth were dismissed as emotional excess. Yet every attempt to diminish you became the catalyst for something far greater. The very pressure meant to constrict you set off unseen transformations, unlocking abilities, insights, and clarity that only hardship could summon. What was lost on the surface was replenished in secret, as if a hidden account was growing with every experience. In the end, the books were always going to balance. The story was never one of defeat, but of transformation. What appeared as unjust suffering was the furnace where new strength was forged. Enduring the fire did not mark you as broken, but as the one who sets the stage for others to step forward. Each barrier you rebuilt became a signpost for others on similar roads. Every moment you chose honesty over silence made it safer for those behind you to claim their voice. In crossing your own desert, you made the way less perilous for all who follow. Great treasures are never found without risk, and rare metals must endure the hottest flame. Trials that would have undone another became the proof of a rare inner composition, one that is resilient, luminous, and enduring. Where most would have retreated, you advanced, transmuting adversity into wisdom. They underestimated your capacity to change, betting you would never see beyond the web they spun. That wager was lost the moment you decided to cease absorbing burdens that were never yours to begin with. When you stopped being the container for their unresolved pain, their carefully balanced world tipped into chaos. Attempts to reclaim you with guilt or orchestrated drama now pass by like shadows, no longer capable of drawing you back into old roles. You discovered the power of saying no, of defining the limits of what you will carry, and of loving without allowing yourself to be harmed. Distorted ideas about forgiveness and self-sacrifice were wielded as weapons, but you reclaimed them as tools of liberation. You recognized that true kindness includes boundaries, that mercy does not mean submission, and that sometimes the most loving thing is to walk away. The realization that you cannot be controlled inspires a fear deeper than any defeat they could have imagined. With every step into your own power, the illusion of their influence falls away. Their panic is not about losing a companion, but about losing the energy that once sustained their illusions. Notice how the web unravels now that you no longer play your assigned role. The tools of manipulation become blunt, falsehoods crumble under their own weight, and the very air seems to shift as your refusal to participate withdraws the last vestige of consent. What unfolds now is not revenge, but the natural harmonizing of events. The scales tip not by your will, but by the order of things. A gentle but unstoppable correction that illuminates what was hidden and sets right what was bent. Your change is not isolated, it resonates outward, making it possible for others to awaken to their own worth. By daring to become yourself, you ignite the courage in others to step free, creating a ripple that dissolves the hold of outdated systems. The consequences of your healing are not just personal. The patterns that trapped entire lines of ancestors and descendants are disrupted by your choice to heal. In facing what others avoided, you illuminate the pathways of freedom for many. Every moment of unexpected support, every sign that arrived when most needed, is proof that no journey is ever truly solitary. Whether in the form of sudden inspiration or the right words at the right time, help was always present, working quietly, ensuring that you reached the far shore. Your emergence is timed with precision, arriving at the moment collective awakening needs new voices. Your unique combination of compassion and strength is not an accident but a necessary ingredient in the world's current transformation. The truth of your transformation is impossible to hide. Where once there was dominance, now there is realization. The recognition that power built on unconscious compliance was never real to begin with. The mirage vanishes in the clarity of awakened vision. As you attract kindred spirits, a new structure forms around you. A network built not on control, but on honesty, support, and shared mission. These connections lay the groundwork for a new way of being, one that pulses with genuine intent and clarity. What you've learned becomes a legacy, not just for your own descendants but for anyone who encounters your story. The wisdom distilled from pain becomes a shield for the vulnerable and a guide for those learning to navigate a complex world. The veil that once obscured reality grows thin with each act of liberation. The energies that kept others trapped lose their hold, and the machinery of control sputters out as people reclaim what was always theirs. The old tricks, refined over many lifetimes, are now being revealed for what they are. Survivors become cartographers of new territory, sharing their hard-won knowledge so that fewer souls are lost in the maze. Allies once hidden in the margins step forward, drawn by your courage and readiness. Where once isolation reigned, now a quiet alliance forms. Those who carry hidden wisdom, who see beyond the ordinary, gathering strength for what comes next. You did not merely interrupt a cycle, you stopped it entirely. Patterns meant to replicate across generations meet their end in your resolve, and what was meant to bind becomes a source of blessing for those yet to come. The campaign against you stretched across layers of experience, physical, emotional, unseen, but your connection to the greater mystery could not be cut. Forces of support, invisible to the eye, worked in the background to ensure your ascension. Restoration comes as surely as spring after winter. Old imbalances right themselves, and the flow of life returns to its natural rhythm. Truth finds its way to the surface, and what once seemed lost is gathered and made whole. Where others saw endings, you found a beginning, a doorway into your true self. All the hardships that could have undone you became the soil from which something indestructible has grown. The moment has come to share what you have become. The world is ready for what you now offer, and your place is waiting.